So to assess our breathing, or to get an indication of where we're at in terms of our breathing, we use what's called the control pause measurement. Don't get hung up about the control pause measurement. It gives you feedback, and it's useful, but you don't have to be reliant on it either. So whenever you're ready, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose, and just relax into your body. And keep holding your breath until you feel the first definite desire to breathe, the first stress to breathe, the first time that you feel, I need to take in that normal breath. And when you resume breathing, your breathing should be fairly normal. Do you have the first definite desire there, for example? And that's about 20 seconds. Now you might have went a small bit over because I could hear it. So just with a little bit of practice, then you get where you're at with it. The control pause, it's beneficial in terms of if we have a low control pause, it's an indicator that our breathing is faster. So in other words, the respiratory rate, that we're taking more breaths per minute than what we should be. It's a really good sign in terms of breathing that there's always a natural pause at the end of exhalation. And it's not about just putting a natural pause in there. When our breathing is becoming optimal, we typically have a normal breath in through the nose, and then a relaxed and slow, gentle breath out. So in other words, the exhalation during rest should be about 1.5 times the length of the inhalation. And at the end of exhalation, when breathing is optimal, there's a natural pause or cessation of the breath before we need to breathe in again. We don't put the pauses in there, the pauses happen. The other thing about breathing is that breathing should be in and out through the nose. Not in through the nose and out through the mouth, not in through the mouth and out through the mouth. When it comes to breathing, the nose is the only organ in the human body that does anything in terms of the breath. And we also have to consider the connection between the nose and the brain via the olfactory nerve, because we don't have that via the mouth. Our mouth does literally nothing when it comes to breathing. Mouth breathing is activating the chest. Mouth breathing is a faster breathing pattern. Mouth breathing and upper chest breathing and faster breathing is more likely to cause activation of a stress response. Nose breathing, we typically have good recruitment of the diaphragm. The diaphragm breathing muscle is not just for respiration, but it is actually connected with the brain. So in terms of the emotions, when people say take a deep breath, the instruction is correct, but the interpretation is often incorrect. A deep breath simply means that you're breathing with good recruitment of the diaphragm. A deep breath doesn't mean that you're taking this full big breath. The risk with taking the full big breath is that you're over breathing, and this in turn is causing too much carbon dioxide to be lost or to be removed from the blood through the lungs. And this in turn is causing reduced blood flow and oxygen delivery to the brain, which can cause agitation of the mind. So in terms of assessing our breathing, we have the control pause, but also to pay attention to the breath itself. If you feel comfortable paying attention to your breathing, ask yourself the question, is my breathing, is it high or is it low? Is it fast, is it slow? Is it regular? Is it irregular? Is it through my nose? Is it through my mouth? Do I wake up with a dry mouth in the morning? So that's how we assess breathing. And it's really the tools for an individual just to be able to tune in with their breathing pattern and to see where they are at. And breathing does change in response to stress. So if we have high stress or chronic stress, that in turn causes us to breathe faster and harder. And even when the stress is removed, the faster and the harder and upper chest breathing can remain, and that can feed back into a stress response. So we always have to think, if we can control the breath, we can control the mind. And 75% of people with anxiety and panic disorder have dysfunctional breathing. Cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't address or doesn't change respiratory physiology. So it is actually very important to actually change respiratory physiology. Otherwise, the dysfunctional breathing or breathing pattern disorder, and all I mean by that is that breathing is that little bit faster, harder, irregular, that's going to feed into the stress response. That's why we need to address it. So in terms of assessing breathing, use the control pause and also use observation of the breath.